There are few people as humble and shy as N'Golo Kanté in the world of football, especially given the amazing success he has had throughout his career. Two-time Premier League champion, a Champions League winner, and a World Cup with France, Kanté's name is among the greatest midfielders of all time. But what makes the Frenchman so unique is that his playstyle is a direct contrast to his personality. Small and quiet, but on the pitch, he is an absolute aggressive workhorse. So how did a small shy boy from Paris go from the 3rd division of French football to becoming a world champion? To fully understand Kanté's humility and quietness, we have to look at his childhood. Born in Paris to Malian parents, Kanté began his career in the western suburbs of the capital. His small stature and selflessness were actually problems early in his career. It was one of the reasons that he remained outside the radar of the bigger clubs. He was rejected from the academy at Clairefontaine early in his youth career. Even manager Arsene Wenger passed on signing him in 2010. When a teenage Kanté won a tournament with his youth local team, he was half the size of his teammates. Despite being the player of the tournament, he stood on the side as he watched his teammates hoist the trophy. Generally, players want to be in the center of the spotlight, especially when they're winning an individual award, but not Kanté. Kanté isn't like everyone else. He doesn't care about the spotlight. According to sources, his first day at training, he just showed up on his own. Nobody from the club even remembers seeing his parents in the decade he played for them. He was quiet and unassuming, but was very receptive to coaching. But due to his size and shy demeanor, nobody really knew how good he could be. With no one giving him attention, Kanté was bouncing around from club to club. After being rejected by a string of Ligue 1 clubs, he joined the reserve team of Bologna on an amateur contract. He would travel to training on a kid's scooter and would take evening classes alongside football. He started out on the reserve side as a right back, but he worked his way up to the first team where they began to use him in midfield. Kanté made his professional debut in the last game of the League 2 season. After they were relegated, Kanté played in the 3rd tier of Championnat National before joining League 2 side Caen. It was at Caen that Kanté really began to showcase his abilities as a top midfielder. He played in all 38 games in his first season as he helped the club finish 3rd in League 2, clinching promotion. His work rate was crazy. He would keep running even when everyone else had stopped, both in matches and in training. The following season, Kanté showcased his durability as he played 37 games as Caen remained in the top flight. His one absence was a suspension through being sent off in a 1-0 home loss to Rennes. Although the second yellow was harsh, it was a reminder that underneath that shy surface, Kanté was an aggressive midfielder who was willing to do anything required to win matches. It shouldn't come as a surprise that he recovered the ball more than any other player in Europe that season. While Kanté's early years were anything but glamorous, beginning his journey at modest clubs like Bologna and Caen, he demonstrated a relentless dedication to the sport. Although these years were spent well away from the spotlight, they were important in developing Kanté into the player that he would become. It was during this time that Kanté's exceptional work ethic and commitment to football were developed. During these years, it was obvious. A player who doesn't care about the limelight is excelling because he doesn't actually care about the spotlight. Kanté is someone who developed at a rapid pace because he wasn't distracted by the things that come from being in the center of attention and only caring about the glamour that comes from being a football star. The next level for Kanté was Leicester City. Kanté was 24 when Steve Walsh brought him to England for £5.6 million in the summer of 2015. Walsh had previously helped with the transfers of Vardy and Morris to the team, and he saw Kanté as a successor for Esteban Cambiaso. Some scouts even saw Kanté as a regen of Makelele, both short, aggressive midfielders who were incredible at winning the ball back. But just like his youth days, there were initial doubts about Kanté. Leicester manager Claudio Ranieri had concerns over Kanté's lack of size and how it would transfer over to the physicality of the Premier League. But Walsh was persistent and determined to sign Kanté. 5 days after signing his contract, Kanté made his debut replacing Vardy in the last 8 minutes of a game against Sunderland. He would have to wait a few more months before getting his first Premier League goal against Watford in a 2-1 home win. This was the season that would change Kanté's life, an underdog signing for an underdog club. He was everywhere that season, covering every inch of the pitch as a central midfielder in a 4-4-2 next to Danny Drinkwater. And when you try and keep the ball by pinging it around hoping that he gets tired, it doesn't matter. Minute 90 versus minute 1, he's running at the same speed and intensity. But the crazy thing is, on top of that work rate and aggression and defending, Kanté was also good on the ball, both at passing and carrying the ball through dribbling in the center of the park. It made him such a unique player, having a guy who's just 5'6", dominating the pitch in one of the most physical leagues in the world. Kanté was one of the best midfielders in the world as he helped Leicester City make history by winning the Premier League. Nobody had given Leicester a chance, and certainly nobody was talking about the small, shy boy who was signed for £6 million from a mid-table club in France. Kanté was named in the PFA Team of the Year. By the end of the season, he had managed 175 tackles, 31 more than any other player, and 157 interceptions, which was 15 more than any other player, topping the defensive stats at the end of the 2015-2016 Premier League season. This surprising title changed English football and brought Kanté into the international spotlight, attracting interest from top clubs all around the world. Despite the international praise and attention, Kanté was still the same shy and modest guy from before. He would run several miles to training even though his teammates tried to talk him out of it. After finally agreeing to buy a car so that he wouldn't have to run to training, Kanté didn't invest in your typical Lambos and Bentleys and Mercedes. He just bought a Mini Cooper. He would get £10 trim haircuts from a Leicester supporting barber he met at the local mosque. When a young Leicester City Academy player, Cedric Kipre, was kicked out of his apartment, Kanté let the Frenchman and his brother live with him for a month. Kipre later explained that there was no one more humble than N'Golo, but while he remained quiet and shy off the pitch, his performances on the pitch were too good to ignore. Big clubs were now interested in him, and Leicester could not keep him. After just one magical season with Leicester, Kanté made a move to Chelsea. But while there was a lot of hype around him, given how incredible of a season he had, there were some people who weren't sold yet on the Frenchman. Arsenal allegedly backed out of a deal to sign Kanté because they thought the agent fees were too high, instead signing Xhaka. But Kanté was used to this. He had been overlooked his entire career. He knew he would have to prove everyone wrong again. Kanté hit the ground running as he's shown in his debut against West Ham United. 3 months after his move to London, he went face to face with his old club Leicester, putting on a man of the match performance as the Blues won 3-0. Kanté was finally beginning to get some appreciation as he was named by L'Equipe as the world's 6th best footballer in 2016. He was so dominant, man, covering every inch of the pitch for Antonio Conte's Chelsea as he helped them become Premier League champions as well. Back-to-back Premier League titles with 2 different clubs, Kanté made history, becoming the first player to get this achievement since Eric Cantona in 1993. He was also named the PFA Players Player of the Year and the Premier League Player of the Season. He was also named in the PFA Team of the Year for the 2nd consecutive season. Everyone was beginning to praise him now. Sir Alex Ferguson hailed him as the best player in the Premier League. Frank Lampard labeled him as the best central midfielder in the world. But even among the praise, Kanté remained humble. He refused to receive a part of his salary into an offshore account to avoid taxes. His lawyer stated in an email that N'Golo is flexible. He simply wants a normal salary. Despite becoming a literal multi-millionaire, Kanté was still driving the same Mini Cooper he bought at Leicester. One time when he popped into a London restaurant, the owner was so excited that Kanté was there that he invited him to his daughter's wedding. Kanté turned up in his best outfit and spent the evening posing for pictures and chatting with the guests. After missing his train to Paris, Kanté found a mosque near King's Cross for his evening prayers. He bumps into an Arsenal fan there who invites him around for dinner. Kanté goes home with the guy to eat dinner. They order curry, play FIFA, and watch Match of the Day together. But despite the successes on the pitch, some people were still not convinced. Former Premier League midfielder Joey Barton felt that people were getting carried away with the praise for Kanté. He criticized Kanté's inability to create and said his passing needs improvement. Barton was also questioning if Kanté could replicate his form and ability in big Champions League matches. Even looking back, it's kind of ridiculous criticism. Yes, Kanté is not the most technically gifted midfielder like a Modric or a Xavi, but he had proven himself more than enough to not receive these sort of criticisms. It's even funnier that it's coming from Joey Barton, a midfielder who was literally only known for making crunching tackles. Even Barton in his prime was nowhere near N'Golo. Having said that, even Kanté's manager at the time, Antonio Conte, did feel that the Frenchman could improve in certain areas, like his forward passing. As we have seen with Kanté, he is quiet, but he's always listening. He took those pieces of criticisms and improved his game even more, showcasing all of his abilities on the world stage in front of everyone to see at the World Cup. Kanté had already shown glimpses of what he could do for the French national team when he had been selected for the 2016 Euros. His first competitive match for France was against Romania for the opening of the 2016 Euros. He played the entire match, made the most passes, the most tackles, the most interceptions, and covered the most distance on the pitch. He even assisted Payet's winning goal. Kanté was doing everything he had done for Leicester for France just on the international stage. In fact, I can make the argument that had Didier Deschamps actually played Kanté in the final, France would have beaten Portugal. Fortunately for the 2018 World Cup, it looked like Deschamps had learned his lesson. Kanté was a starter in all 7 matches, playing in a double pivot right next to Paul Pogba. Perfect balance between these two. They really complemented each other so well. Pogba had the height and the technical quality to create chances, meanwhile Kanté had the aggression and work rate and engine to cover all inches of the pitch. And he could carry the ball forward too if he had to. Paul Pogba said that Kanté could outrun an entire team of 11 players. This time though, Kanté started and France was able to beat Croatia 4-2. Kanté was now a world champion. But even as a champion, he didn't want to be in the spotlight. His teammates had to literally bring him forward to lift the trophy and take pictures. Meanwhile, Mendy, who barely touched the field, was out here sliding and taking photos with the trophy. Unfortunately for Kanté though, all the games he had played and the distances he had covered began to catch up to him. He wasn't even fully fit when he dominated Arsenal's midfield in the 2019 Europa League final. Bruised rib, knee problem, and an ankle sprain, Kanté missed 7 games and was out injured for 41 days. The next season, the injury issues only began to get worse. Kanté started the 2019 Premier League campaign from the bench as Chelsea suffered a 4-0 away defeat to Manchester United. He had been out for almost a month, including missing the Champions League opener against Valencia because of an ankle injury. In the 2020 season, Kanté had 8 different injuries, leading him to miss 31 games. The man who had been called a machine and Mighty Mouse was beginning to break down. In 2021, he had similar injury issues. He missed the Nations League final and semifinals because he had corona. He also missed several World Cup qualification games due to groin and muscle injuries. At club level, he was dealing with a hamstring injury. Yet despite all these injury issues, Kanté kept pushing. There was still one more trophy he wanted to get, one more accolade to add to his cabinet that he didn't have before: the Champions League. But while Kanté was doing his best to stay healthy, Chelsea was also dealing with issues. Chelsea had found themselves 6th in the Premier League at the end of December. They had come off an embarrassing 3-1 defeat to an Arsenal team that was in 15th place and were winless in their last 7 matches entering that game. After a 2-0 loss to Leicester, Lampard was sacked and replaced by Thomas Tuchel. Under Tuchel, the beginning was rough for Kanté. It was in the second leg against Atletico Madrid that it became clear just how important Kanté is. The German was using Kanté in the box-to-box role that he was the best at, both under Ranieri at Leicester and Conte at Chelsea. The Frenchman continued his dominance against Real Madrid in the semi-finals, where Chelsea was able to defeat the kings of the Champions League. Even among the craziness that had happened in the season, Kanté had made it to his first Champions League final. But both Kanté and Chelsea knew that it wasn't going to be easy. They were going up against Pep Guardiola's Manchester City, one of the most dominant teams we have ever seen. But Kanté came prepared. This guy was everywhere once again, pressing, tackling, and carrying the ball forward. He was named the player of the match as he won his first UEFA Champions League ever. Arsene Wenger described Kanté's performance as unbelievable. And people were even arguing that Kanté's performance in that Champions League put him in contention for the 2021 Ballon d'Or. Looking at the data provided by The Athletic, Kanté had covered more ground on average than any other Chelsea midfielder. With a specific role in an established system, Tuchel was once again getting the best out of N'Golo Kanté. He was named the UEFA Midfielder of the Year and on the shortlist for the Ballon d'Or. The once shy and unknown midfielder was now being considered as one of the best defensive midfielders of all time. Pundits were now claiming that he had surpassed a player that they always compared him to early in his career, Makelele. What's crazy about Kanté is that when he left Chelsea to go to Saudi Arabia, everyone thought he was done at the top level. He had already been dealing with injuries and COVID, and it was really hard to see him ever return to the levels he was at once before. People were even more shocked when he was selected for the French national team for the 2024 Euros. Yet Kanté looked as good as he's ever looked. Multiple man of the matches, running like he has iron lungs, Kanté reminded everyone why he was considered one of the greatest midfielders ever. More clubs should want players like Kanté. Athletic, intelligent, and versatile, he is a manager's dream player. He has the discipline, understands his role, and is very coachable. These qualities are often overlooked through the youth academy. It's why Kanté himself was an unknown talent for so long. Scouts and coaches are so focused on flashy dribbling or the big and fast players that they do not always see the Kantés of the world. But while Kanté is shy and small, his desire to win is big. And that's why he's one of the greatest players to ever play the sport. What he did at the World Cup was unbelievable, but he wasn't alone. Griezmann had a big part to play in France becoming world champions. To see how Griezmann and Kanté worked together to make France become world champions again, you have to check out this video right here.